We're joined now by public affairs analyst Ayodele Adewale, and it's good to have you in our studio.
Thank you for
You're welcome.
Good to have you here.
And in our Abuja studio is the Deputy President, Nigerian Labour Congress, Peter Adeyemi. Good morning. It's good to have you on TVC Breakfast. All right, let's start with you, Adewale. This is one of the first times that we are seeing an NLC factionalized on two strong points and arguing against each other on whether to go on strike or not. What is fundamentally wrong from the way they have taken the first step towards this strike? Well,
I will not want to go too deep into the
certainly not
NLC issue, but basically I think they should carry their members along appropriately well and try to knit their differences together so that the union becomes stronger and they'll be able to agitate for the right of the Nigerian working class and of course provide better solution to our various sundry problems. Moving away from there, NLC have the right to agitate, they have the right to protest, but within the context of protest, I've always told people that we should be realists. The issue on ground is not about subsidy removal alone. It's about saving the Nigerian economy, saving the Nigerian state, and of course looking at the bandwagon of corruption that have happened in the past. How do we remedy this situation? For instance, if Nigeria was making over $100 per barrel in the oil sale, then we have a very strong buffer of funds to throw around and do as we want to do. But in this situation, we are selling below $50 per barrel, and we have huge debt. We have a lot of huge demand from the people, and the people also are looking at a very quick solution to these problems. We have insecurity all across the country. Goods and services are being hindered to move around. Unemployment is very high. The government of today have inherited a lot of myriad of problems. They are also looking at ways of making the people happy. But the best route to this is to open up the market, make it more competitive. And they've also tried to turn around the various refineries and make it work appropriately. But again, you still have people who are sabotaging their effort. Pipelines are being vandalized and all whatnot. Some of us have also said we have questioned the sale of the energy sector before they came on board, and we have also said that they should review all of these things. But if energy come full swing, then the dependency on PMS will be highly reduced. Then this strike would not have been called for.
Okay, just hold on there. We'll still come back to this discussion in earnest. On May the 11th, a new pump price for petrol was introduced. The price put forward was not to exceed 145 naira at all fuel stations in the country. But organized labor insisted it would shut down the economy if government failed to revert the pump price of petrol to the old price of 86 naira 50 kobo. And that decision for a nationwide strike was made after last Friday's emergency meeting of the National Executive Committee of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Now, demands put forward by organized labor include review of the minimum wage, improvement in government palliatives to cushion the effect of the fuel price hike, reconstitution of the board of the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, that's the PPPRA. Now, the National Industrial Court has restrained the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, from going on its planned strike, pending the hearing and determination of the suit brought before it by the Attorney General of the Federation. Now, the Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, had dragged the NLC to the Industrial Court, seeking an order of the court restraining the NLC from proceeding with a planned strike.
And now he sought the order on the ground that the strike would paralyze the nation's economy, citing Section 14 of the 1999 Constitution. Now, Section 14, subsection 2b, said the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And that section of the Constitution is quoted by so many people when need arises sometimes. Now, Malami wanted the court to decide whether the NLC complied with conditions precedent in law before threatening to embark on a strike. Now, Justice Babatunde Adejumo ordered is to maintain the status quo until the hearing and determination of the ex parte motion. Now, the case has now been adjourned to May the 24th. The federal government and organized labor, however, met to try and find a common ground, and the meetings have so far been deadlocked as both sides have remained unyielding. Now, the labor unions presented conditions upon which they would rescind their resolve to embark on the nationwide strike. Now, we still have with us in our Abuja studio, Peter Adeyemi, the Deputy President of the NLC. Peter, it's good to have you on TVC Breakfast. Now, a lot of comments we have heard from people say that... Yeah, a lot of comments we have heard from people across the country have said that the timing for this strike might be wrong and the NLC is not sensitive to the realities on ground. What is your take on that?
Clearly, I think that is also a very wrong position by those who are making it. For us in the NLC, our position is very clear. Our president, whom we all supported, and we gave our maximum support to be elected President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, told us, proud to this time, that I didn't believe that there is subsidy. And even when the IMF came calling and said that we should remove subsidy and devaluate our currency, our president, with due respect, insisted that he doesn't believe that there is any subsidy, and that even if there is subsidy, removing it will have negative impact on the mass of the people. That's the position of our respected President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. On issue of devaluation of the currency, which was canvassed by the IMF, our president had insisted that our currency will not be devaluated. Now, our position as Labour is that we know that our president is the #1 citizen of this country, and he is the head of government. So if he has maintained that position, we do not see any reason, without our president coming out to say that the situation has changed as far as the deregulation or removal of subsidies concerned.
All right, let me come in here, if I may.
As far as
Mr. Adeyemi, let me come in here very quickly. Now that Labour is factionalized, and you know, the perception out there now is that Nigerians actually don't have confidence in this NLC as it is. What can you do to, you know, regain the confidence of Nigerians? I mean, who believe that in the past you have actually let them down and you have not carried out the fight to a logical conclusion?
First, let us address the issue of factionalization. As far as I'm concerned, NLC is not factionalized. We had issues with our election, and after the election, we had set in motion appropriate machineries to get our colleagues back into the main fold. You are aware that in every election, when people lost the election, there will be issues. It is not peculiar to the NLC. It's a general national crisis. When people lost the election, they will try to raise issues. So what we have done after the election is to see how all of us work together. And we agreed that on any issue that affects the Nigerian people, we will all work together. So that is not, there's no reason for us to say that NLC is factionalized. And when you talk about the mass of the people losing confidence in the NLC, as far as we are concerned, right now, what NLC is doing is the right thing for us to do. We cannot say because there is small problem and there are issues for which we need to address, we will say because a few elements within our movement decided to go the other way, that we will not stand by the Nigerian people. What we are doing now is the right thing, because if we don't, the same Nigerian people will accuse us that we have been bought over.
All right, Mr. Adeyemi, let me still stay with you on this. The federal government has rolled out plan. In fact, from all the points given by the federal government, this is meant to make life better for the ordinary Nigerian. And the government came up with some palliatives generally. Now, the NLC, on the other hand, say they are also fighting for the ordinary man. Now, both parties fighting for the ordinary man but from different perspectives. Where is the missing link between your stand and the stand of the government?
Thank you very much. The missing link is very simple. When government eventually decided, contrary to the position of Mr. President, that there is now subsidy and they needed to remove it, we had expected that the government will then engage appropriate stakeholders and put the cash on the table. But government didn't do that. Because let me say very clearly here, we have been the strongest supporter of this Mr. President. When he came into power and started this war against corruption, we partnered with him. NLC went around the whole place, the nation, on an anti-corruption rally. That's to show you that we are very supportive of this government, and we have said that on the issue of governance, we will be completely supportive. But the truth of the matter is that if now the situation has changed and our president now realized there's subsidy and there's need to remove it, it is proper that Mr. President and the government will engage labor and then put their cards on the table so that we can all discuss and agree on the way forward. Not that you will call us and say this is the situation, and then we told you we are going to consult with our stakeholders. Before we reach our offices, you have made the announcement. I don't think that is fair.
All right, Peter Adeyemi, Labour executive there. Just hold on, if you may. Well, we have Carl of
California
already is on ground in Asaba to give us situation reports. Of course, he's been on this since day one when the industrial action started. Carl, good morning to you. What can you tell us about latest developments? It's about 7:22 in the morning.
Yeah, the strike action began yesterday has continued today. The gates of the secretariat are still locked. Because when I first got the call early this morning, I drove to say the two secretariat. They are still securely locked. But the workers that turned up yesterday and met, and were shocked to meet their gates locked. Didn't bother to come out again today, even though there were a few persons yesterday who passed vote of no confidence on the labor leaders, insisting that if the gates were open, they would have gone into work. So, but they didn't turn up today.
All right, Carl, we remember this same situation played out in 2012 in January, where all Nigerians came out and they spoke in one voice. This time around, apart from members of the NLC, what are the people saying in support or against this called strike, as the case may be?
Yeah, there was actually a mild drama yesterday when, shortly after the NLC State Secretary addressed the crowd, and most of them echoed that they were in support of the action, that they were ready to leave. One of them was bitterly angry, and I said, "Why are you angry?" He said he is not ready to join this strike. But labor leaders have always used them in the past, and at the end, they will go home with Ghana must go, leaving the ordinary workers to suffer. They don't protect their interests. So they are saying they are not ready to support them this time around. And you can see the division at the center has really affected even the states, because with this sentiment, it's obvious that labor is not speaking with one voice. And one of them spoke off camera. He said, he gave me instances. He said, look at, that should cast my mind back to 1999 to 2007. Then the then governor of the state was busy looting the treasury, and the then labor leader was romancing him, courting him. At the end of the day, he was brought into government, given an appointment, made commissioner. From there, he rose in political profile and later became secretary to the state government. He mentioned a very big hotel he has in Asaba today as labor leader. He asked me, if you are a civil servant, will you say that is a role model? Will you say he protected the interests of the workers while he allowed the government of the day to be looting the treasury? He knew, and he cooperated with them, and from there he got his own share. So he said their eyes are now open, that they are not ready to support labor leaders. And one of the cited instances with Oshomole, who used labor to rise to power and became governor, he said, look at that the same Shomole is now recognizing a faction of NLC, which goes to show that Labour has leaders have never really truly represented the poor masses.
Okay. Carl Ofonia there reporting for us from Asaba. We still have Peter Adeyemi, Labour executive, right there speaking to us. Now, the government has said it is willing to meet you, halfway with the PPPRA board that will be reconstituted in another fortnight, in about 2 weeks. And of course, the Minister for Labour himself has said the door is still open for the NLC to negotiate with government. Now, what will it take for you to, get back to the drawing board or discussion table with the government? And what will it take for you to, sheath your sword?
Now, let me say very clearly that the issue of getting back to the negotiating table is not really a problem for us, because as a trade union organization, we believe in the spirit of collective bargaining. But what is problematic is that government had already taken a position that it is not ready to reverse. It's not ready to reverse. It's not even ready to reduce. So now our position is very clear. Even the 145 naira per litre, which you said the PMS will be selling, is not even certain, because you have said that marketers should go to the parallel market or to the secondary market to go and source for dollars. And we know quite clearly that this is business. So if marketers had to go to the parallel market or the secondary market to source for their dollars, at any rate, at any amount, you are not going to be able, even as government, to stop them from selling the litre of the PMS at a rate that will make them to generate profit. So even the 145 naira per litre that the government is holding on today is clearly not sustainable. It is not affordable by Nigerians. That is what we are saying. If you subject buying petrol, importation of petrol by marketers through sourcing of dollars, through any source, then it is going to be a problem. What we have seen in the last couple of days is that suddenly the naira has depreciated very grossly. We can find that today, as at yesterday night, a dollar is exchanging for over 370 to $1. Whereas as at the time this government made that pronouncement, it was 320 to $1. So what that means is that
all right, we just lost that signal there, but certainly we'll try to put that together and have Peter Adeyemi back online. He's the Deputy President of the NLC, joining us from Abuja studio. We still have Adewale Ayodele with us in the studio. Now, you were part of, in fact, you were very frontal in the protest in 2012 when this same issue seemingly came up that time. Now, yesterday there was an expectation for people to converge at the Fawemi Square around Ojota, but that didn't really happen. Is that, from what you have heard generally and what you are assessing, is it that the people are not in support of the strike?
Well, from the account of Mr. Adeyemi and from the general perspective of people's thinking, I think it's a question of trust. The people trust more in this leadership that is governing Nigeria. The NLC have doubt, of course, mirroring from what has happened in the past. I did not only take place in the 2012 protest. We also took practical action in 2000. In 2000, we have something of similarity that happened. But it's a question of leadership. This leadership is highly trusted, not only by Nigerians, but of course the whole world. And the leadership is very prudent, and it is working around the clock to improve on the image of the country, to reduce corruption, if not eliminate it totally. Of course, to try to maximize the potential that they have to increase revenue and all of that. You are aware that the Federal Revenue Service have worked tremendously well. to up the inflow of funds. And of course, the EFCC have also tried as much as possible to repatriate stolen funds that have been taken. And by the time you put all this aggregate of funds together, it is very important to trust this leadership. It is very important to give them more time for them to implement all of these sundry programs. And if we all join forces together, we can make ourselves, smile again.
Indeed. I mean, it's interesting you talk about, the people actually trusting this government. But looking at some of these issues, the increase in the price of petrol and a number of other things that, this government has had to, come up with, forex restrictions, of course, by the CBN and all of that. Is there a danger of this government losing this, goodwill?
The government
and what will it take, for this government not to lose that? Because it looks like there's a thin line right here. You have, with the whole NLC drama going on now, that a number of Nigerians still out there who are saying, look, we're not happy with what is going on. Yes, on the other hand, there are these palliatives that government has promised. How can government ensure that it doesn't lose this goodwill?
The major thing government have to do, and that this government is doing not to lose the goodwill, is to keep focus. You are going to hear a lot of dissenting views. Of course, you are going to get a lot of praises, but the major thing is that they have a roadmap, and they must stick to that roadmap. One is to improve on security for this country that will attract investment and investors. Secondly, is for them to continue to engage the Nigerian people and of course various stakeholders. Thirdly, is for them to also quicken to implement all of these palliatives. And to do this, they have to source for funds in order to put in it. The oil has been reduced now. Of course, with the various vandalization that's happening all over the place. Definitely, we're not pumping more. It's reducing.
Yes, about 1.4 million now.
You understand? And of course, we are not too used to this culture of paying taxes, which the government have also tried to improve on it in order to generate more funds. Of course, government is also looking at other areas of creating jobs. And the fastest way to bring in these jobs is when you are able to attract investors into this country. And for investors to come in, they will look at your critical infrastructures. Are they readily put in place? And one of the main infrastructure that investors would like is the uninterrupted power supply, which they are also working round the clock. Of course, the gas pipeline has also been blown off, and other sources of energy generation are also being put in place. So NLC can only help this government by supporting them, by also engaging various stakeholders, particularly the youth in the Niger Delta, to engage them that, look, if this thing is done rightly well, everybody will be okay for it.
Okay. Now, let's get to Kaduna, where our correspondent, Tessem Makinde, is standing by now to give us a situation report in Kaduna. Tessem, good morning. Can you tell us what's going on there in Kaduna?
Well, good morning, Mike. Just like yesterday, it's still business as usual here in Kaduna, day 2 of the NLC strike. It's business as usual. The banks are open. The public sector people are out there trooping up to their offices. It's just business as usual, just as it was yesterday. There are the people in the schools are open, hospitals are open. There's really no strike action here in Kaduna, really.
And is that situation likely to remain the same right now? I just saw some security operatives there. Talk to us about the security situation to ensure that nothing untoward happens in Kaduna, especially as we enter day 2 of this industrial action.
Yeah, we had police personnel, especially strategically positioned, at different, spots in the city, trying to ensure that normalcy or, law was being maintained, to forestall a situation where there'll be a breakdown in law and order. That seems to be coming up. We've gone around town. We've not seen some of them at those particular spots yet. But generally, it's normal. It's business as usual. People are about their normal businesses. They don't seem to know whether or not there's a strike action. We I must note here that yesterday I made efforts to speak with some of the labor leaders. You know, one of them who said he was in transit from Abuja back to Kaduna. Much later, we tried to reach him, and he said they lack what it takes to, you know, move people to actually embark on the strike. And so it's as usual, I must say, here in Kaduna.
All right, Tessem, let me ask you this. Apart from the labor leaders generally, the people themselves, the ordinary Kaduna State people who work, what are their comments as to what they hear from this strike, the call for strike, no, don't go on strike, and so on? What have they been saying?
Well, it's laughable for them because as far as they are concerned, at some point, they went through tougher times here in Kaduna, and just like other people across the country did, just about 3 weeks to 4 weeks ago, we bought fuel in Kaduna at 250 naira in the black market. At some point, there was a ban on people selling the product in cans and jerry cans and all of that. So, you know, the number of cars on the highways was really, really reduced. People had to trek. People had to abandon their private vehicles to, you know, work with the public means of transportation. And so 145, you know, comparatively to 250 per liter, might not really be the best, but comparatively, it's not as bad as it used to be 4 weeks ago. And so comparatively, they would choose to manage the situation as it be than just embarking, hitting the roads, hitting the streets, you know, robbing themselves of their daily bread from their various ventures, as it were.
That's really interesting there, you know, Tessem. But let's even look at the palliatives that government, you know, has talked about to cushion the effect of this price, you know, fuel price increase. How informed really are the people themselves, you know, in such a way that it actually informs their response, you know, for or against, you know, the NLC's call for a strike?
Well, many people do not really understand the various dynamics in the whole industrial action. All that concern is that there are two labor factions now, and for them, they don't really understand that kind of situation. They've always known organized labor in the country having a common front and then calling for people, the labor force, to embark or down tools, as it were, as at when due. But now we have two labor factions, one calling for a downing of tools, and the other, you know, wanting to go to the negotiation table with the federal government. So for the ordinary worker here in Kaduna, he or she feels a lot of confusion within the leadership of the organized labor in the country. So not until that is resolved, they are watching, but they wouldn't just watch. They are trying to go about their normal businesses. Of course, waiting for them, there will be a common front, perhaps, and when there's a call for an industrial action, perhaps at that point, they would come out and join with one voice.
Okay. Tessem, thank you very much. We certainly will keep a tab on the developments from Kaduna if anything changes. Thank you. All right, we still have with us Adewale Ayodele with us in the studio. We're talking about the fallout on developments on the strike generally. Now, Adewale, we have seen in the past governments in Nigeria, when it comes to the issue of palliatives, we've seen lots of them. We had seen needs to seeds, we've seen P, we've seen poverty alleviation program, and so on. Different governments in the past. Now, the government is talking about putting new palliatives on ground. What is the difference, or what's going to be the difference between what is on now and what has been before that Nigerians don't have confidence in?
Well, past government were only paying lip service to all of these things. And of course, revelation that we've been saying have shown that the funds that would have been used for all of these things were just put in private pockets. But unlike this government, it's a very serious one, a very practical one. And flowing from what the Minister for Finance did say, that before funds are released to any ministry, they would have shown the readiness to expend the fund immediately those funds are released. Not that these funds will be going to private pockets. And of course, the economic blueprint of the government, particularly as a concerned palliative, have been well defined. That they're going to create 500,000 jobs very quickly, and they are going to also give it to graduates who are going to be retrained and distributed to where they are needed. They are going to give them stipend between 25,000 to 30,000. They are going to give soft loans to about 1.76 million Nigerians that are ready to go into agriculture and other skill vocation, as the case may be. They are also going to go into the food program for pupils in primary school. Now, this food program is going to water around various critical interests in the country, from the farmer to those that will cook the food, that will package the food, that will transport the food down to the students. Of course,
whole
you
chain.
understand?
Yeah.
Now, these students are also going to use plates. It means that the funds will move around and all of these sundries. But the most important thing is that funds also will be saved, that will be taken into our various infrastructure. We need very good roads, better roads that will move into the interland, of course, move into the critical areas, bring goods and services, connect people together.
Okay, very interesting. I mean, well, government has come out clearly to say, look, this is really not about subsidy.
No.
The point is that Nigeria is broke. And then the question is, how will this affect this 2016 budget? I'll allow you to answer that question after we come back from Peter Adeyemi, Deputy, of course, President of Labour there. Peter Adeyemi, let me ask you, there are ongoing negotiations right now between Labour and government. Government seems to be trying to cede some ground by accepting to come down to 120 naira per litre for pump price of fuel. But Labour doesn't seem to, be okay with that. You're insisting on 86 naira 50 kobo per litre. And then again, are you saying that Nigeria should continue to spend on subsidy rather than the way out, which seems best for government in increasing the pump price of fuel to 145 naira per litre?
Clearly, that I'm not aware that there is a negotiation going on, and the government has taken a position of reducing from 145 to 120. I'm not aware of that. So for me, that is the development that is coming from your end. It is not the development that is known to us. Two, what I said very clearly is that even if there is the need to increase the pump price of petroleum as a result of what you expressed, that government doesn't have resources. Those of us who are labor leaders are Nigerians, and we are reasonable people. What we have said clearly is that you couldn't have taken this decision, come and just announce it to us, and we told you we want to go and consult with our constituency. And you said, okay. And then only for us to go to our offices and find you make this announcement. That's clearly unacceptable. After all, this is a democratic government, and then if you know you have taken that decision, why do you need to call us? You should have gone ahead in the military way and made the announcement. That's what we are saying. And when we say whether the question as to whether we want government to continue to pay subsidy, the answer clearly is no. In tandem with what Mr. President has said, Mr. President said that there is no subsidy. So how does it suddenly come that suddenly now becomes something that is there? And if we have to generate resources, are we not supposed to discuss with the Nigerian people, the stakeholders, so that our country will not run aground? The policy of the fight against corruption, we have supported. So if we have been reasonable enough to join Mr. President in supporting the fight against corruption, you would have expected also that labor leaders, those of us in the NLC, will support government in making sure that our country economy doesn't collapse. So the way it is right now is that we are clearly not carried along. We don't know how government can make us. And we said that this price is unsustainable. The value of our currency has been vastly devaluated because now the so-called 18,000 minimum wage has been reduced to half. If you look at the exchange rate of the naira today, What it means clearly is that the naira has been grossly devaluated. So the 18,000 naira cannot be said is something that you can say is on the line. And then when we talk about minimum wage and issue of palliative, minimum wage is for the working people. Minimum wage will not address the problem that the vast majority is confronted with as a result of this astronomical increase. So what we are saying in Labour is that, look, if you have reason as a result of the depression in the economy to do ABCD, try and make sure that we are all carried along and we have an agreement for our country to move forward. That's our position. We are not, Labour is not disrupting. We are not trying to grant the country because we want us to do so as a mere show of power. No, what we have said is that let us be on the same page with this government. Let us work together and find solutions to whatever economic crisis that is there, that at least there will be no loser. All of us, both government and the mass of the people, will be winner as far as this matter is concerned. And when you talk about palliative, we have also seen what has happened in the past with the issue of palliative, GOP and whatever you call it. How much impact has this had on the ordinary people of this country? Whereas you create this platform to feed a few set of people. So what we are saying is that, one, I'm not aware that government has stepped down from 145 to 120. And if that has happened, well, that, of course, we have to be informed.
Peter, let me stay with you on this. Now, we remember the Minister of State for Petroleum came out to say that the price of petrol will hover between 86 naira 50 kobo to 145, which means the cap is 145, where it shouldn't go beyond that, which means that it can hover, it can be 100 naira, it can be 90 naira, it can be 70 naira. And then we saw that everybody across the board is selling at 145, which means that decision came from the marketers. And we expect that the NLC would have been channeling part of this protest to the marketers, but this doesn't seem to be so. What is your take on that?
Now, what we are saying is that even this policy favors the marketers. And in fact, as long as we continue to depend on importation of fuel, then we are going to subject the entire process to the whims and caprices of marketers. I think that the minister should not be speaking for marketers. The minister should be speaking for Nigerians. Number one, why must we continue to import? What effort are we making to get our refineries to work to full capacity, or if possible, upgrade this refinery so that they can even produce more? What efforts are we making to make sure that we reduce the influence of the marketers in this process? And until we are able to do that, what we are saying is that let us encourage a situation where, and clearly this can be defined, we should have timeline. Those are the things that I think we can discuss. Let's have timeline. Okay, between now and now, we will get our refineries to work to full capacity. Between this period and this period, we will encourage investors to come and build new refineries. This thing, as we think now, is open-ended. In marketers, we continue to have a field day for as long as we don't have very clearly defined timeline as to how we do all of this. And let me say very clearly,
take you up on the issue of the marketers that you talk about. If I may, you talk about the marketers taking advantage or cashing in on this. But the idea of deregulating the market, will that not, the idea is for government to open up the market, allow as many people as possible to come in. Will this not naturally crash the price of of petrol at the pumps?
Well, that is also dependent on if the money for the marketers to import is available. Right now, you cannot say, and that is what is the that's the real big problem in this policy. This policy says, now, prior to this time, the central bank provides the dollars to the marketers. But right now, this new policy is saying that, look, you should go and find the dollars anywhere. And that's the contradiction. Because if marketers source their dollars for this importation from the CBN at a regulated rate. The government will be in a position to insist that since we are the one that are making these dollars available to you at a regulated rate, you can't go beyond this. But right now, when you have asked them, go source for dollar anywhere, of course the implication is very obvious. The implication is that if I get my dollar at 370 or 400 plus, you can't ask me to stick to 145. It's clear logic. So we say that even opening up of the market has its own advantage, has its own disadvantage. But for us to be sure that this 145 can be sustained, you have to make sure that the dollars for the importation comes from the central bank and not that it should be accessed from the secondary market.
All right, Peter Adeyemi, we're going to come back to you shortly on this. Let me bring in Moses Omoge now to give us a reaction of what the people on social media. Now, Moses, good morning.
Hi, Moses. Good morning.
So, well, what we really have today is not so much, far-fetched from the, the perception that went on yesterday, but we're going to read them anyways. First comment comes from Adeleke Damian Maria and says, NLC strike. If this strike did not hold, Nigerians must apologize to President. Good luck. Hashtag fuel subsidy. And Tani Romeo says, so the $50,000 each for the illegal faction of Labour and TUC to boycott the strike could not yield any good result. Hashtag NLC strike. Hashtag yes NLC strike. And Adeleke Damian Mary also says, NLC strike. It seems only PDP states will be embarking on this strike. What a divided country and people we are. And Ohago Chukwemeka says, the NLC who don't protest when students are at home, doctors are not paid, Senate failed to pass the PIB, now want a strike. Hashtag NLC strike equals to wash. And a great Kayode says, here in Osun State, it be like say now only NLC wakakomo. Hashtag NLC strike. And Oyedimachuku says, a government that tries to commandeer labor and threatens unions can't be called progressive. Progressive fight for labor, not against NLC strike. And Otumba Shiwaju says, we might not all agree with NLC strike, but that has been their major weapon. Whether it's been successful or is debatable. Hashtag NLC strike. Femi says, the only thing that has changed with this strike is that many Nigerians are with the federal government. Trust is a super weapon. Hashtag NLC strike. Very interesting comment there, from Femi. Now, I want to throw this question to Mr. Peter, on GSNG. Now, from the comments that we have on social media, the perception out there, the NLC, bluntly putting it, seems to have lost its faith, in Nigerians. There's so many questions out there. If really the NLC has, a common interest or the interest of an average Nigerian at heart due to, divided interests, sellout, and all allegations towards the NLC. So, hearing this perception, how does the NLC group, intend to redeem its way out of this perception? Because trust really seems to be everything.
Well, thank you very much. What we are doing currently now is part of what we needed to do to restore the confidence of Nigerians in the NLC. And what we are doing is perfectly right, in the sense that what we need to do, for those who are saying that they are on the side of the federal government, this is something that the future will tell. The future will tell, because clearly right now that even the prices of foodstuff have gone beyond the reach of the ordinary person. This is true that this current price is unaffordable by Nigerians. It is something that no ordinary Nigerian can afford. The resources that is available to workers have not improved, and you are mounting more pressure on the workers. So clearly, you also know that in quite a number of states, salaries have not been paid. So with which money are they going to buy a liter of petrol for 145 when you have grossly devaluated the salary you pay to them, the value of the currency that is paid to them as salaries, when actually you have not provided any succor? And then you make this announcement and you expect people, you have increased the tariff for electricity without providing light. And people say that they are on the side of the federal government on this. It's a matter of time for people to realize that this is something that is clearly negative. It's not going to improve on the life of the citizen. And of course, ordinary Nigerians will be the one to pay the price.
All right, Moses, thank you for all that.
Perhaps you need
Moses,
some very
I
serious
guess you
rebranding
got
in
your
there.
answer there.
Yeah.
If you're satisfied with that.
We'll come back
Okay.
again.
All right,
Thank
now.
you.
All
Now,
right, well, maybe I should actually just throw this question very quickly. Many people have been saying that, look, it's about time the NLC actually started thinking out, outside the box, that the use of strike or industrial action seem to be, passé. As in, people are looking at a situation where the NLC, the labor, body, can actually come up with concrete recommendations and solutions, to help government to, swim out of this quagmire that we seem to find ourselves every now and again, instead of always coming up with a strike.
Well, I'll tell you very clearly that even on this issue of subsidy removal and the regulation of the downstream of the health sector, NLC has submitted to government a comprehensive document on the way forward. So it is not about the fact that we are lacking in ideas as to what should be done. Our position is very clear. You have to put certain basic things in place before you go into full deregulation of the sector. Certain things must be in place, which includes we have to have functional roads, we have to have functional refineries, we have to make sure that energy is there for those who are employed and those who are not employed. So that quite a number of our unemployed graduates can also generate means of livelihood in the pharma sector. Our position is very clear, is documented, it has been submitted to government. It cannot be about the fact that we use strike all the time. And if you look at it, we have always used strike when it becomes extremely necessary, when government is unwilling to listen to the voice of reasoning. Let me say clearly, and for those the doubting Thomases in our country, NLC is made up of very, very patriotic Nigerians, and we are not there to just create situation that will truncate democracy or that will turn down the government. No, we are not there to do that. We are there to support government in their very reasonable and genuine policies that will impact positively on the life of the people. We are a very reasonable element, so we are not here to destroy anything, and anytime government is around with policies that will impact negatively on the populace, we will give our support.
all right, let me stay with you, Peter, on this. Talking about a change of tactics and a change of strategy that my colleague was asking you earlier on. Now, the gate has been thrown open for anybody, any agency to bring in and import fuel as so long as you stay within the regulations of government. Shouldn't the NLC be thinking in that line? Let's do business this time around and see how we can even raise money to assist government, knowing the fact that things are not the way they're supposed to be. Shouldn't the NLC be thinking in that light?
I want to sincerely disagree with you. The policy is not that they will bring fuel and stay within the regulation. How can you ask somebody to bring petrol, PMS, using all means to source for the dollar, and then you ask him to stay within regulation? Is it not business? So if you are not able to provide the resources at a regulated rate, you cannot ask them to sell at a regulated rate. This will amount to deceiving Nigerians, and don't let us deceive Nigerians. If you ask marketers to source for their dollars at the secondary market, you can ask them to stay at 145, because they will source for this dollar at any amount, and when they bring the products to Nigeria, they will sell to make profit.
Okay, Peter Adeyemi, Deputy President of the NLC, just stay with us. At the top of the hour of 8 o'clock, Kemi Folademo will be here to bring us the latest news.
Yeah, sure. She's even standing by already. And just in a few seconds now, let's have her on to give us a news update for the time. Kemi, good morning again.
Good morning, Mike and Ngozi. Well, fresh updates at this time now. The federal government says it is set to reopen negotiation with the Labour Congress over the fuel price hike. Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, says that the strike called by the NLC will neither earn more money for the government or repair the refineries. He debunked claims by the leadership of the NLC that the government didn't consult the union before announcing the new pump price, adding that the government met twice on the issue, with the organized labor preferring its own suggestion on the templates presented by the petroleum minister. Found, but Amina Ali Nkeki, who was among those rescued by the JTF vigilante troops now at Bale near Damboa, already has a child. She was rescued with a 4-month-old baby fathered by one of her abductors. Amina is the first of the Chibok girls to be found since they were abducted by Boko Haram militants. Well, in addition to that story, we also understand that Amina will meet with the president later today. A faction of the Nigeria Labour Congress, supported by civil society organization, made good its threat to begin a nationwide strike against the recent increase in the pump price of fuel yesterday. The aggrieved workers began their rally from the headquarters of the Nigeria Labour Congress. President of the NLC, Ayuba Waba, says the division in the ranks of organized labor will not stop it from registering the displeasure of workers at the unilateral increase in petrol price. But as they marched on, normal business activities picked up in the city center and its environs. The nationwide industrial action by the Nigeria Labour Congress, this time in Kano State, failed as residents came out en masse to carry out their daily activities. Banks, schools, federal and state ministries didn't comply with the stay-at-home order by the NLC to protest against the increase in the price of fuel. Commercial activities and vehicular movement in the Granite Pyramid city of Kano was massive like any other day. And while the Kano State Police Public Relations Officer Magaji Majia, in a chat with TVC News, said there is no case of violence reported in any part of the state, but he asked residents to warn their wards to desist from engaging in such acts. While the leadership of NLC in Adamawa State forcefully shut some government establishments to enforce the ongoing nationwide industrial action over the new pump price of petrol, the NLC officials went round Yola after closing down the State Universal Basic Education Board. Some teachers and pupils were ejected from their classrooms. Some banks operating in the state rendered skeletal services, but all markets were opened. A visit by our news crew to a specialist hospital in Yola showed that the nurses there had joined the strike, but some doctors were not on duty. New patients were not admitted. Well, that's news update at this hour. Thanks for watching. Now, of course, TVC Breakfast continues with more on the nationwide strike.
All right, Kemi, thank you very much. It's really cheering news about one of the Chibok girls that was found, and Nigerians are still looking forward to seeing more of them come back home.
No doubt, Mike.
Mike, that really just gives a glimmer of hope, you know, especially to those who have, continued to cry out loud there, to bring back our girls.
It's all right. Thank you very much, Kemi.
All right, thanks for remaining with us. We still have Adewale Ayodele right here in the studio with us, and of course Peter Adeyemi, who is the Deputy President, NLC, right there. Okay, now he did mention something that's very, very important, the issue of whether it is fair that government should actually, peg the price. If it says we're opening up the market, let as many people as possible come in, into the oil and gas sector, bring in as much fuel as you can. Is it realistic for government to, peg a price?
Well, I've tried to constrain myself a lot because of the solidarity that we still have between ourselves. But reality be told, answering your question is quite fair because there must be a benchmark. Of course, government also know the going rates. They know the cost of production. They know the cost of bringing in the goods, and of course circulating all of these things, and of course some marginal profit we put in it. That is just a benchmark. It doesn't mean that someone cannot come tomorrow and sell the same product for 30 naira. Take, for instance, the Dangote refinery, come upstream and start production. I can tell you that that product can come as low as 40 naira compared to those who are bringing it from Europe, America, or elsewhere, because the cost of long transportation would have been removed. We're talking about market force here and all of these things. Now you have opened up the economy and all of that. You're attracting people to come. There will be competition. It happened in the telecoms. Prices are going to go down as we journey on. But the most important thing is that we must remove the people's dependency on one particular commodity and also create other streams of energy for people to run things on their own. And once this thing come upstream, even globally, they're saying that the crude oil will vanish one day. People are going solar, they are going green. They're even using algae to produce energy. Some are even using hydro, some are using wind to even power vehicles as time continues. And that is why I'm appealing to our comrades. They have all information within their disposition. They know how much government is making per day, except we want to lie to ourselves. And the pressure on the dollar in our economy is too huge. It is not only oil that needs funds. Agriculture needs funds. Education needs funds. Health needs funds. Foreign exchange, as the case may be. But we cannot just channel everything to one product. So we must devise other means of loosening the pressure on the foreign exchange.
Okay. Now, let's get to Peter Adeyemi with us in our Abuja studio. Now, we got a report that updates that the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, has received instructions from the presidency to negotiate, to go and negotiate with the Labour. Now, if that is going to be, as the case may be, and the call for, okay, let's reduce the cost of the pump price of fuel from 145, what would be your advice and where would it be pegged from your perspective?
No, I don't have such mandate to say this will be the position now. You know, NLC is a very democratic organization. What Dr. Chris Ngige, the directive he has from the presidency, is not yet transmitted to us. If that directive is transmitted to us, as a very democratic organization, we will put it before our organs. Our organs take a decision on that matter. We will go back to the negotiating table, and if we have their mandate, of course, naturally, we will have no choice than to work with the government on that. But right now, I cannot tell you that this is what will be acceptable or this is what will not be acceptable. As when the government invites us, then we talk. The talk will start from there.
Lastly, the Nigerian Industrial Court issued out an injunction for NLC not to embark on this strike, but yet they went ahead. So this is one thing so many people are calling for concern. What is your take on that?
Well, as far as we have made our position very clear on this, that up to the time this strike started, nobody served us anything from the court, whether a notice that there is a case or there is an injunction. We were not served. But right now, I must assure you that since we have heard of this from the media, we have already consulted with our team of lawyers who are already handling the matter. So that is our position. If, of course, we were served and we were put on notice, clearly as law-abiding citizens of this country, we were not going to do anything to the contrary. We can't be lawless in a country where there is law and order. I want to put it very clear that we were not served, we are not aware of it, and now that we have heard it in the media, we have already told our lawyers to do the needful.
Okay, Peter Adeyemi, Deputy President of the NLC, talking to us from Abuja there. And Adewale Ayodele, it's been nice having you on TVC Breakfast this morning. Thanks for your time and insight.